September 15th, 2008. The world is in the middle of a financial crisis. Honda, the Japanese Formula One team, is on the verge of collapse.
The whole team will be closed down with the loss of 800 British jobs.
But behind the scenes, a man ignited a silent revolution that would change Formula One forever.
Are we going to fight? Yes!
This gentleman, who started as an ordinary mechanic, bought the Honda team for only £1. Ross Brawn, a true legend of this sport, motivated himself to save the 800 Honda employees and win the championship. An ambitious dream, don't you think? But 1 year later, his dream became reality. And now you're watching the story of Brawn GP. It all began in early 2008 when Honda decided to hire Ross Brawn. He had been Ferrari's technical director alongside Schumacher. When Ferrari's golden era ended, Ross was looking for a new challenge.
Ross Brawn, the most successful technical director in recent years, has joined Honda as team principal. Ross, welcome to the team.
Thank you. Very pleased to be here.
That's why he wanted to make Honda a top contender. The year before, the team did poorly. Neither Jenson Button or the famous Rubens Barrichello could set foot on the podium even once. Their best finish was 5th place at the Chinese Grand Prix. So Ross made an unexpected decision. He decided to sacrifice the 2008 season and invest all the team's money and attention in understanding the new technical regulations introduced by the FIA in 2009. Brawn knew how to read between the lines, so they spent a lot of time understanding the new regulation and its impact on the car. But as his team started making real progress, Ross Brawn's dream was turning into a nightmare because of the 2008 crisis. And for someone who started down the ladder, it was out of question to leave the race without a fight. Honda declared bankruptcy.
I feel very regretful and I'm very disappointed. I owe my apologies to the fans. Most of all, I apologize to the people who have joined the F1 team for next year. Wonderful engineers, including Ross Brawn.
Brawn immediately went to a meeting with the company's executives to convince them to keep the funding. Meanwhile, the CEO was trying to find a buyer.
What chance of finding a buyer?
Well, that's precisely the question I put to Ross Brawn, and he said that there are people out there, there are expressions of interest, and they're conducting early investigations to see how serious these people are.
However, the financial crisis was hard on everyone.
A record $3.7 trillion in market value has been lost this year.
Capitalism itself looks like it's on the brink.
And despite their best efforts, neither Brawn or the CEO of Honda could find the money. So they went all in. And I mean all in, by offering to buy the team themselves. Honda was sold for £1. That's not a typo. £1. Brawn and his people assumed the responsibility of keeping the team going, which means taking part in each race, finishing the car development, and most importantly, paying the team's salaries. Knowing the challenges that they were facing, Brawn and the ex-CEO were desperately looking for sponsors, so many businessmen were trying to take advantage of the situation. We had Richard Branson of Virgin hovering on the edges of it all as well, possibly coming in with some money and possibly looking at buying shares in the team. We were just exploring all the options, but rapidly trying to weed out the ones that were just too dodgy. Some of them got quite far down the line, and we discovered through due diligence that these people had criminal records. At the end of the day, they did not secure any sponsors, and their only source of money was the $90 million given to them by Honda as part of the buyout. This amount was their budget for the entire 2009 season. I know it seems like a lot of money, but it was less than 1/3 of McLaren's budget that year. And with only $90 million, Brawn GP had the 7th biggest budget of the grid. Ross wanted to make the car completely white, so that eventual sponsors could see the car and imagine their ad on it. But it dawned on his CEO that almost half of the grid would be white, so they added yellow, which they could make themselves from powder that was cheaper than buying paint. And that's how the Brawn GP design was born. As you already know, Honda supplies the engines for today's Red Bull team, and they are doing very well. However, at that time, they left Brawn GP without an engine. During my trip to the Italian Grand Prix, I found myself unable to finish the series about Brawn GP. To make matters worse, F1 TV was blocked. I quickly googled how to get around it, and one name jumped out everywhere: NordVPN. And you know what? I simply selected a different country, and there I was, surfing from the US. This let me not only see the replay of Piastri's crazy overtake, but also continue watching the movie, which inspired me to create this video. So, when NordVPN offered me a sponsorship, it was an obvious choice. For you, I've arranged an exclusive offer. You'll get 4 months of NordVPN absolutely free, as well as a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, you can easily get all your money back. There's no risk. Geo-blocking is just one of the use cases. NordVPN can be used for a million things. For example, it has built-in threat protection that not only blocks malicious ads, but also prevents phishing, password stealing, and other online threats. For me, this is convenient. With one click, you can feel completely safe on the internet. If you follow my link, nordvpn.com/Formula History, you will not only get all the bonuses, plus 4 extra months on a 2-year plan, but also support our channel, so thank you. So Ross turned to the notorious Scuderia, which has been producing engines since the very early days of the sport. Initially, the team was confident that their new car would be powered by Scuderia engines, but time passed and no engines were to be seen. So Brawn GP started looking for other engine manufacturers, and one German supplier caught their attention. Not only was the engine competitive, but it fitted in the chassis like a glove, so the choice was obvious. Once the team signed with Mercedes as an engine supplier, Brawn needed a body that could profit from the engine to its most potential. And oh boy, they had a secret weapon for that. I'll let you guess what the secret was by looking at these 2 pictures. The 2009 car was literally groundbreaking. Or maybe should I say ground-sticking? You can probably guess why I'm saying this. Brawn's team benefited massively from Honda's initial investment. The leader of aerodynamics tasked 3 different teams to work on the car body, in 3 different wind tunnels. After that, each of them came up with a new concept. Once they had enough data, they grouped all of their brainpower in one wind tunnel. One of the shortlisted ideas was the double diffuser that would play a key role in our story. But wait, what's a double diffuser in the first place? To simplify it, they made 2 holes in the floor of the car, which fed more air into the second diffuser. This created a crazy amount of downforce and controversy, which we'll cover later. Thanks to the team effort, the double diffuser was integrated flawlessly in the new car without much bodywork, which meant that they could improve the rest of the car, like the front wing and a new special piece that we find in today's F1 car. But back then, it was truly revolutionary. Brawn has tried new ideas throughout his whole career. One of them was the addition of deflectors on the brakes, but it did not help much back in 2008. This time around, things were different thanks to the double diffuser, because it enabled the deflectors to improve the airflow that was direct from the new front wing. The team expected good results and was aiming to gain a fraction of a second, but the simulations showed something else. Each simulation gave back the same results and surprised the engineers each time. Rubens Barrichello's engineer said, "Well, you have clearly got your numbers wrong then, as if we are going to be 2 seconds faster than everybody else." Brawn GP did not have the necessary funding to run tests on a real F1 circuit, so they rented the Stowe circuit instead and did a bit of testing out of sight to keep their new car as secretive as possible. The engineer had more data to finalize their calculation, and just like that, they were off to the 2009 F1 season. In the preseason testing of Barcelona, Button dominated the field by scoring the best lap time from the get-go. No one could compete with them. At first, the engineers were surprised because they were skeptical regarding the results they got with their simulation. I mean, how can that be possible? They had less money than the other teams and even less people to work on the car.
They were pretty fast straight away, and everyone, all of the other teams, including myself, we were sure that, Ross Brawn took the team on the last moment. I mean, they have no money, so they need to find a sponsor. So it's a time to show that the car is competitive, so they just remove the weight of the car just to be quick.
And a lot of people just came to the conclusion that we were doing glory runs, not knowing that actually we were running every bit of metal we could on the car to slow it down. The team was hiding their new beast because they knew their car could dominate the grid like no one else. Chief Strategist Brawn. Red Bull thought the double diffuser was the reason why we were seconds faster at the beginning of the year, and they tried to copy it. The truth was that it was worth a couple of tenths, but they had to completely redesign a new gearbox and rear crash structure around it before they fitted a version to their car and realized it was only a few tenths. Because of their limited budget, the team had only 2 cars with the new engine and a spare chassis, and they knew that they were at risk if this information got leaked. That's why the Brawn GP had the third chassis travel with the race team, left in the truck for everyone to see, but with the engine mounts facing backwards. After all, no one would assume we were carrying a completely redundant chassis around the world. But indeed, we were, to avoid anyone thinking they could take us out. The first race of the calendar, the Melbourne GP, was the real test for this new, promising car.
Didn't they tell you you couldn't crash?
Yeah.
But don't crash.
Make sure you win on the way, yeah, but don't crash.
Well done, mate. P1.
29th of March 2009, race day. Now that the team secured first and second positions in qualifying, the team realized that their competitors were on their tracks ready to take them out at any given chance. Jenson had not won a race since 2006, and this was his chance to step on the top step of the podium, so he was under tremendous pressure going in.
Jenson, well, can you do this?
When you qualify well, the pressure's on race day.
Yes.
We're away in Melbourne for 2009. It's Jenson, Button and streaks forward. Vettel's there as well. Master's trying to come through on the outside as well. Rosberg's up in close attendance as well, up into third place. Or there is actually Kubica's come back as well.
While Jenson was leading the race, his teammate Rubens missed his start, going from second to 8th in a matter of seconds.
It was him that started it off. So it was Barrichello getting in to the side of Mark Webber, and Rubens doing all of the damage.
The pressure was getting to him. His team asked him to retire the car, but Rubens was focused on his race and wanted to finish his race. But once he got back to the pit, he lost a lot of time while refueling.
It's a long stint this is a lot of fuel going in.
We had no time to do pit stop practice, and our fuel guy had never been a fuel guy before.
But even this could not stop him. He was racing like his life was on the line, and it paid big time as he came back to 4th position, racing against a Red Bull. Meanwhile, Jenson, who was leading the race, was chased by Vettel, also in a Red Bull.
And they were quicker. They were quite a lot quicker.
Button is only 1.5 seconds ahead of Vettel.
Vettel was a real threat. He was closing the gap on Jenson quickly, but under pressure, he went beyond the limit of his car.
There goes Kubica, there goes Vettel. That's the last thing they needed to do. The line takes the checkered flag. Jenson Button's a winner again.
Barrichello finished second, achieving his highest result since the controversial 2005 US Grand Prix. But all this success got the other teams jealous. How could a team that was struggling so hard get this good and win this easily? Did they cheat? At least that's what the competitors thought, and they had the FIA involved. The team survived the first race with some damage on Barrichello's car. The repairs would cost some money, but they won't go bankrupt because of it. The second race was set to be in Malaysia, but in addition to the race pressure and challenges,
Formula One could be thrown into disarray as championship leader Jenson Button waits to hear whether his car is legal.
the judges were to deliberate on a ruling made by the stewards at the Australian Grand Prix that Brawn GP, Toyota, and Williams cars are indeed legal. The race points of Melbourne and Malaysia were at risk, but the Brawn team was in an even more dire position because they had no plan B. They had only 3 chassis and no time or money to make another double diffuser if this one was deemed illegal.
The lights are out and they're away. Button making a move, but so too Barrichello. How quick it looks to be.
Have you really expected to?
Had you ever driven the car in a full wet before?
Never.
Look at this.
Safety car conditions, surely
Absolutely.
now.
While the judges were discussing the car's double diffuser, Brawn GP won in Malaysia without even finishing the race because the weather conditions were so bad that it would have been dangerous to carry on the race.
In our favour. It was a shock with everything we've been through to be in such a great position.
The future of the team was in the hands of the judges that were going to deliberate on the legality of the double diffuser.
The car that British driver Jenson Button raced to victory in the first 2 Grand Prix of the Formula One season has been approved.
Brawn GP had a legal car that dominated the grid. The judges ruled that the double diffuser was developed according to the rules. But now they had other races coming, and it was not going to be easy because the other teams were furious at them. So they had to take Brawn out either by accident or by copying their double diffuser. Nui, who was the head of aerodynamics in Red Bull, missed the Chinese Grand Prix in order to get a double diffuser ready for the next race. Things were going well for the team. Jenson secured 3rd at the Chinese GP even with very poor weather conditions, but at each race the car was deteriorating and things were getting harder as they had a limited budget and they could not make any repairs. Because of this, the team was not as fast as they could be. Brawn GP could not secure 1st or 2nd row in the qualifying for the Bahrain GP, but even this could not stop Jenson from taking the win. To be fair, he got a bit of luck in this race, since the Toyota team made a major mistake in the pit stops, but that's part of racing. Button completed a straight run of podium finishes in the flyaway race to put him in a very strong position as the championship heads back to Europe. But by the time, the other teams were planning to bring new components to Barcelona, and this could be the end of the Brawn GP story. But the biggest threat to the team was not even Red Bull or Ferrari. It was their driver rivalry. As Jenson was leading the grid and in the championship, Rubens was getting upset and started questioning the team's strategy, implying that Jenson Button had been prioritized by the team and even going as far as threatening to quit unless he could compete on a level playing field. If I get a whiff of team orders, I will hang up my helmet on the spot.
They're out now and away in Monaco. Great start by Jenson Button and Barrichello as well.
Great work, Rubens. Now settle in.
Time for us to shine and show that it wasn't just down to a double diffuser. And we did.
The Monaco victory for Jenson was so special and so new that he didn't even know where to park his car after the race.
78 laps and he's now doing another half lap almost along the pit straight. They'll wait for you, Jenson, don't worry.
At the Turkish Grand Prix, things started to go south for the team. Rubens Barrichello was a great driver. A majority of his career he spent in Ferrari alongside Michael Schumacher, where he was contractually obligated to lose. Rubens was getting frustrated from the situation in Brawn GP, and to make matters even worse, Barrichello had to retire the car because of a gearbox issue now. Jenson went on to win that race, which was his 6th win out of the first 7 races, and building up a championship lead. It seemed that after his total dominance, Button would easily carry on winning the rest of the races. But next on the calendar was Silverstone, and this race holds a special place in Button's heart, as with any British race driver. Jenson had a poor qualifying and an even worse start, losing pace to Red Bull and Ferrari. Meanwhile, Rubens was focused on his race.
Jenson is very gentle with the steering wheel, so whenever there was lower track temperature, he would suffer not getting the right amount of temperature on the tire.
Jenson finished 6th, while Rubens stepped on the podium. And that was the first time that Rubens got a better finish than his teammate. That 3rd place sparked something in Rubens' mind, as he felt unbeatable.
It was a disaster, and I took a while to get over that race mentally.
At the German GP, Rubens was leading the race.
Barrichello for Brawn, into the lead from Webber.
But he had an issue at the pit stop, giving enough time for Jenson to come back in the race. But while the teammates were racing,
Ross came on the radio.
Rubens, we're losing to Rosberg and Massa. If you can't pick up the pace, you have to let Jenson have a go.
You will box this lap, box this lap. Barrichello into the pits.
I wish I can get on the plane and go back home right now. I don't want to talk to anybody in the team because I don't want to understand. There will be a lot of blah, 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 and I don't want to hear that.
Are you saying the team are definitely favouring Jenson?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there was a good show how to lose a race today. I'm not saying that they favour anyone.
the Red Bull team was getting close to Brawn GP. Their car was pretty solid, and they had none other than Vettel to drive it. This wasn't the only serious problem.
Someone came to me and said, that's the piece that came out of your car.
Both drivers failed under the high pressure. Rubens took only 10th place and Jenson 7th. Meanwhile, Barrichello felt the car and had dramatically regained its pace at the European Grand Prix. Rubens was so confident that he added 10 kg of fuel in qualifying for the European GP to deceive his teammate.
That's fine for you if McLaren finish 1-2 tomorrow. That's absolutely perfect.
Wow, maybe on paper it may be, but I can tell you Rubens will be pretty pissed off if they finish 1-2. Yeah, we're going to go out there and try and beat them. You know, I mean, as you're all aware, Rubens hasn't won a race yet this year, and his teammates won 6, so desperate to win a race. And
when the light turned green, he proved his confidence, while Button lost several positions. All that was left for Rubens to do was to pass McLaren.
5 qualifying laps. Hamilton is in. Now come on, Rubens. Here he comes then. He was a winner for Ferrari. He's never done it for Brawn, but he has now. For the first time in 5 years, Rubens Barrichello is a winner in Formula 1.
During the season, Rubens continued to dominate his teammate, winning the Italian Grand Prix and scoring very important points for the team, when Jenson finished second.
He's done a better job. You know, I felt like I'd maximized the car, but he's obviously done a better job.
By the end of the season, Jenson was not performing as expected. The pressure was getting to him, and he could not handle the car as well as Rubens. But instead of reviewing his driving, Jenson was convinced that the car was the issue. And to make things even worse, Jenson was surrounded by yes men, telling him what he wanted to hear. After all, how could a future world champion be underperforming? It's certainly the team's fault. With 2 races to go, Button was leading the championship by 11 points over Barrichello and 16 over Vettel. To secure the driver's title, he had to finish both times in the points. At the same time, Barrichello and Vettel both had to win the last 2 races to keep their championship hopes alive. The Brazilian race began with chaos caused by bad weather. In qualifying, drivers of 9 different teams crashed out, including the main contenders for the title. Vettel and Button did not make it into Q2.
Really disappointed and really surprised the balance I had, and to be back in 14, which is not much better than where Vettel is.
Rubens Barrichello.
Meanwhile, Barrichello secured pole position.
5 years, and now he's coming. Rubens Barrichello knows the time to beat, and he's done it. Rubens Barrichello has risen to the challenge.
For Rubens, it was a chance to win the first race at his home Grand Prix and arrive at the final in Abu Dhabi as a serious challenger for the title. For Button, on the other hand, it was a nightmare, as he was starting from P14. The race started furiously, with a very good start from Rubens.
Barrichello looking to get in there and leads well. Straight down to where the first one.
Jenson, the main contender for the title, was struggling at the back.
Over the plate. Oh, there's problems there as well. That's Sutil, and there's a Toyota there. Was that Jarno Trulli? It is Jarno Trulli.
Jenson keeps the hopes of the team alive by an inch, getting into the top 10 of the grid. After a safety car, Jenson is still on the offense, trying to pass the cars in front of him.
Down the inside, he stays on the outside of me.
Well, Button hasn't got a chance there, but he's coming back on the inside now. Can he do it?
For me, that was the first moment that I thought, we can get this, we can do this.
Button's done it. Gone through. Let's go, let's go!
Meanwhile, Barrichello, the leader of the race, was chased by Lewis and gets really lucky.
You have a puncture, Rubens. Rear left is punctured.
Barrichello's dream was over, but there was still hope for the team and for Jenson, who was climbing the grid, hoping to finish the race and get his title. Destiny decided to sacrifice Barrichello's dream to realize his teams and teammates, but without him, none of this would have been possible. From being sold for £1 to winning both championships, Brawn GP has written its history as the only team in the sport to take both titles in its debut year. But what happened next? Brawn GP no longer exists. Its spirit is still in the paddock, as the team was acquired by an engine manufacturer and became Mercedes Petronas F1. The first season under the new name seemed tough, but in 2014 everything changed. Mercedes introduced an innovative engine that turned Formula One upside down and began an era of dominance.
Lewis Hamilton, champion of the world in 2014. Championship to his collection. He's got 6th appeal in Austin. It's Lewis Hamilton, champion of the world.